What's up, everyone? You are watching AHD Toys. I just want to tell you, it's morphin' time.
What's going on, everyone? Anthony here with AHD Toys, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we are doing my top 10 Hasbro Power Rangers Lightning Collection figures released in 2022. Now, this is a yearly video that I do that you guys seem to enjoy a lot, where I pick and choose all the figures that were released during the current year and rank them in order of what I think is the top 10. Pretty simple. So let's go over real quick what I use to determine what places where. So first and foremost, I use paint applications and details. Now, I'm not talking about like QC issues. I'm talking about like where they added paint or where they didn't add paint, not where they missed it or messed up during, production. I'm talking about like, well, obviously like Dino Thunder White here, where he initially came with just straight up missing, what was it, the black mask or the black outline, and then they eventually corrected it. So stuff like that, not QC issues. Next, it would be accessories, what it comes with, how little it comes with, does it come with a lot? Because there were a lot of figures this year that didn't come with head sculpts, but yet the price stayed the same. Then last but not least is pricing. Now, I know pricing is going to be a bit of a hot topic this year, mainly because that we had 2 or 3 price increases in 2022. So it was kind of weird, and it's hard to judge what determined the price. Obviously, oops, sorry, bumped the camera. Obviously, like him, he was a standard release, big ol' hulking figure, but he was still the same price as a standard figure at $19.99. But now you have like figures that are running like $32, $35 for single release figures like you did with Shredder. So it's just, I'm going to try to take pricing in as little as possible, but if it warrants where it needs to be worn, I'll definitely make that more of a deciding factor. With that being said, those are my qualifications on what goes where. So let's see who joins these two. This one was obviously my 2020 pick, and this was my 2021 pick. So let's figure out which one's going to be the 2022 number 1. First off, number 10. Number 10, we have kind of a cop-out, but I'm only going to show you one of them, all the Ninjetti Rangers. Mainly because they all basically were released within like a couple months of each other. You had the first 3, which was Tommy, was it Kimberly, and Billy, I want to say? Maybe it was Adam. I don't know. But you basically had one set with the first half and the second set with the other half of the Rangers. So the reason they're not number 10 and not higher is that these actually did have a lot of QC issues. This was the start of the downfall of like the Lightning Collection, in my opinion, where like they switched over to the Vietnam plant from the China manufacturing, and a lot of the QC issues seem to arise out of them. Like, it took me a long time to find a good set of all the Rangers. In fact, my very first set, or maybe not my very first set, but one of the Pink Rangers came, and as soon as I pulled out of the box, the leg was just off. Like, it was just broken. So, a lot of paint mishaps on these. But what you gonna do, And then the price point. These were the start of like the second price increase. I think these retail at $26, $27, depending on like if you got from Hasbro Pulse or not. These were Target exclusives with limited amount on Hasbro Pulse, but limited, really, these things never sold out. In fact, they're clearanced at most Targets for like $8. So it's a shame. I really was looking forward to the Ninjetti Ranger when they teased it during that live stream. But with that being said, it still made the top 10, even with all the flaws and all. Lots of articulation, fully pinless, good paint applications overall once they were painted correctly. But yeah, what are you going to do, guys, right? So moving on, number 9. At number 9, we have the Target exclusive Sentry, or Tyrannosaurus Sentry, rather. Yes, I do realize he doesn't come with his head sculpt normally, but that's how I display him anyways. I know, they're just foot soldiers. Whatever, ignore that. But with that being said, this is number 9, and it's a great figure. It could have been a lot higher had it had a little bit more like sculpting into it. Like, I wish, like, see down here where they sculpted in like the boots? That was a nice touch. There's an added piece to make it look like very long boots, but I really wish, instead of just doing line work up here to make it look like armor, that it would have actually been armor, Or like a more flexible cape, because this thing really hinders the articulation a lot. It did come with a more corrected helmet sculpt, even though it wasn't the screen accurate version. So that helped it out a lot. And then I believe this is now black instead of painted black. So like the black paint chips doesn't happen on there. So this is a lot of good. But once again, this was a figure that had a price increase where I don't think it should have needed it. I guess mainly because it was a Target exclusive. It was $24 if you found it, you know, at MSRP right away. Now they were clearance off to, once again, like $15 after the fact. But still a great figure, great army builder, lots of articulation, lots of details. And yeah, that's number 9. So without further ado, let's move on to number 8. At number 8, we have the newest figure, or not the newest, but the most recent figure released so far, and that is from Wave 14, I want to say, the Putrid. Now, I didn't think this was actually going to make it on my list, but it is actually a pretty good figure. Not a lot of details per se. Pretty standard foot soldier, putty, you know, looking guy. But he does have the new pinless male body, and it's not loose. Like a lot of the pinless bodies that we've gotten so far seem to be really loose. But as for him, he actually comes out pretty tight. I wish all the figures were like this. And the head moves the way it's supposed to. Everything on this guy is great, how it's supposed to be. The only reason he's not higher is because sadly he is at that $24.99 price point. And he does not come with a lot. No extra head sculpt. He comes with a few extra hands, 1 weapons, and a lightning effect. But honestly, I feel like maybe some more. Actually, I don't even know what this guy could have came with. Maybe some more hands, you know, more expression. But at the price increase, for very little articulation, maybe like a different head sculpt, like an attacked looking head sculpt or like battle worn. I don't know, something to like justify the price increase of $4. But anyways, let's go on to number 7. Okay, and number 7 for me is going to be from the monster line, Snizzard. Now this figure is a more recent figure, obviously, because obviously I just reviewed it. In fact, it was my last video I reviewed. And you got to give credit where credit is due. This guy is sculpted amazingly. All the snakes and the scales on him, the painted details that I feel like they should have or would have missed normally, but they gave it in. There's a little bit of wash underneath his chin. I wish they would have went all the way down. Paint detail lining up there. Bendable tail with the bendy wire inside. Even though it doesn't have a huge range of motion, it's still a step forward for the Lightning Collection, and I think that's why it deserves to be number 7. Obviously, it could have been a little bit higher, but due to the lack of paint washes, it had to be moved down a little bit. So, with that being said, let's go on to number 6. Number 6 for me is going to be Lucas and his Vector Cycle. This was a great set. Really, really fun to play with. It actually could have been higher had these have been connected to the wheel motion to where they spun while you spun the bike, but little bits of nitpicks here and there like this. This is really loose. This keeps falling off. That's kind of annoying. But overall, it is a great set. Really, really fun. This is actually one of the ones I highly recommend that you get, even though it'll probably go on sale. You know how the deluxes are, especially when they're non-MMPR. But yeah, guys, this is a great set. Don't sleep on it. It's really, really fun. Lots of playability, lots of display options. It's just an overall great set, and it's actually worth the price in my opinion. Could have been a tad bit lower, obviously, but with the current rise in prices, what are you going to do? So, moving on. Number 5. All right, guys, here we are, halfway through the list at number 5. Now, number 5 was a tough one for me. It was really going back and forth between this one and the number 4 figure, which I will show you obviously next. But this one just had to be pushed up just a little bit, mainly due to the fact that I think. Now, this could be a personal opinion, obviously, because this is my list. I wish it would have came with the antenna head version. Obviously, they'll probably give us another one. Maybe in Cosmic Fury, you'll have the antennas out. But that, and like, it's not pinless, even though this was coming out around the time of pinless figures. It's just kind of like, a little bit disappointing. But the reason it is so high on this list is because that it was still at the original price point, at least of when I got it, at $19.99. I know some Walmarts and Targets got them much later throughout the year, and that was after it moved up to $22.99. So it was kind of dependent on when you got this figure. If you were able to find it luckily enough at your local retail. I found this at Walmart when it first released at $19.99 before Target raised the prices, or Target and Walmart raised it to $22.99. So the reason it is number 5 and not number 6 is because it is, a cheaper figure. But with that being said, the paint applications on this and the gold they decide to use is amazing. The head sculpt really, in my opinion, looks like Zato. So great paint details on the helmet, sword, everything. This is just an all-around great figure. And really, it was a tough call between this one and number 4. But with that being said, let's go ahead and see what number 4 was. And at number 4, we have the Crimson Hawk Morphed Ryu Ranger. Now this, guys, is a great figure. Yes, it was very pricey when it first came out at $33. But I get it. It's a new sculpt that, you know, he has the bigger arms that they're obviously not going to use for many other times. I think Ken is going to have these in like a skin tone. It didn't come with an unmorphed head, mainly due to probably licensing's an agreement or pricing. I don't know. But it's pinless. It doesn't have loose joints. All the joints work the way they're supposed to. He has a great range of motion. The shield is done in a very nice gold. The two-tone like paint's going on, like the darker, more off-whitish costume with the more white bright sleeves. Guys, this is just a great figure. Even the bandana has articulation to get him in that nice like fighting windy pose or whatever it is. Like this, you couldn't ask for, I mean, you could ask for more, but it's an overall great figure. And honestly, it would probably been top 3 had it not been for the price. But I had to like kind of throw that out to the window. It is a joint deal between Hasbro and Capcom, and maybe whoever owns the rights to the video games. I'm not quite sure. But yes, it could be a little bit cheaper and it probably would have been moved up. But with that being said, it is number 4. It is a great figure. I highly recommend it. Let's go ahead and move on to number 3. And at number 3 is a little bit of a cop-out, but since they're basically the exact same figure or character, why not? And they came out in the same year anyways. Even though technically I think he was supposed to be out last year, and this was to come out this year, but obviously last year due to COVID restrictions and shipping, he came out very early at the beginning of the year, and this guy came out a few months after. Anyways, it is a great figure, great sculpting, and like I think this guy was actually pretty cheap. He threw me off of how cheap he was. I think it was like $25.99. And it's for the sculpting that it is, it's a great figure. Look at all the details on this guy. Obviously, we all knew a red Ecliptor was coming. I think people just didn't assume it was going to be this soon. I actually know some people got the red Ecliptor before they even got the black Ecliptor. But it is what it is. Lots of details, lots of great sculpting. Sure, there could be some more paint applications here and there. And this was technically just slightly before the price increase. For this type of figure, it is astronomical that we got it at like a $25 figure. If this would have came out like late this year, this would have easily been like a $30 figure. But yeah, guys, number 3. Moving on to number 2. And at number 2, we have Shelby, the Dino Charge Pink Ranger. This is a very, very special figure, mainly because it is the first figure that we got as a main cast member, and it's fully pinless. It brought the female figure into the modern era with double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, all pinless. The head sculpt on this figure is spot on. I just don't know why they can't get all the head sculpts like her. But either way, this figure definitely deserves to be number 2 for it bringing the female into like the modern age. Obviously, the female figures, they were lacking in like elbows, and like the legs were just always so bendy. Like they always came warped. Even all her pinks match. Well, like they match how they're supposed to. Obviously, her arms are supposed to be darker. She's not like 3 different shades of pink on her uniform. This figure was done very nicely. Was at the cheaper price point too, unless you got it just a tad bit later. Obviously, it was in the same wave as Zato, which, yeah, guys, you can't ask for a better number 2. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to... But you know what? Before we go into number 1, let's go and take a look at some close calls. All right, guys. Some close calls who just barely didn't make the list was obviously, as you can see in front of you, Lunar Wolf and Zeo Pink Catherine. Now, the reason Catherine didn't make it onto here is because of her pink, like what I was talking about earlier with Dino Charge. I mean, maybe you can't tell on the camera, but in person, she's 3 different shades of pink, and it's just extremely annoying that they just couldn't get this right. Like, this is a brighter one, this is the darkest, and that this is, I think, how it's supposed to be. But with my bright white lights on off the camera, you probably can't tell. But if you guys have her, you know what I'm talking about. In person, she's just all different shades of pink. And then Lunar Wolf, he couldn't make the list because he came in like so many different running changes. Like, you had white boots 5 stripes, white boots 6 stripes, silver boots 6 stripes, which is how it's supposed to be. And I think there was a silver boot 5 stripe. And then he didn't come with his holster. I had to take the extra one from my Wild Force and move it over. So yeah, that was the reason why these guys didn't make it. And had he not had so many different versions and had the correct holster from the get-go, he probably would have been on the list. But what are you going to do? With that being said, let's go ahead and move on to number 1. And the number 1 figure of 2022, in my opinion, is the Amazon exclusive Finster. This guy is unbelievable. There is so many sculpted on details. The mouth articulation, the head sculpt alone is simply amazing. It is amazing what they got to do with this figure, and it's just a figure I never expected to get so early in the line, much less being this great. I thought if they ever did end up making a Finster, it'd probably be like a real cop-out, like how Alpha 5 was. It was okay, but like you could tell they definitely took a lot of the budget away from it. But no, this guy has all the bells and whistles, all the accessories. These are, not all of them, but like this is own accessory. This is his own accessory. He comes with like 2 or 3 little putty figures. He comes with a suitcase that molds the figures. Little sculpting tool right there. Glasses, the jaw articulation, a good range of motion on the head. It's just, you couldn't ask for more in a Finster figure. And with it being the way it is, they couldn't reuse this. Maybe they can reuse a little bit here and there for maybe like a Finster Alpha, whatever that crossover comic book creation thing they had. But yeah, guys, this is a great figure. It was a bit pricey at $26, but sculpting details and accessories, I think honestly he's worth it. I think he went on sale during Black Friday too. I think he was like, got down to like $20 or something like that. But yeah, guys, number 1 figure of the year, in my opinion, for the Hasbro Lightning collection. And yeah, guys, what do you think? Did your figures make the list? Were there figures that you think should have been on the list that I didn't account for? Let me know in the comments down below, guys. And as always, until next time, later.